Well, good morning everybody. I'm down here at the jetty at Looe in Cornwall, and shortly we'll be getting on a boat to Looe Island. The last time I was on Looe Island was over 45 years ago. So this is kind of a return pilgrimage for me, really. I've been down here 3 or 4 days and visited Paul Perro yesterday, and I took a lot more footage of Looe the first day I was here, which will be on a separate video. So this morning it's going to be a kind of a pilgrimage back to my past, and I'm looking forward to it, and it will bring back memories of the days when I came down here on working holidays, conservation holidays, and we'll see what the island looks like now. I'll give you a bit of a history when I get over there. Anyway, waiting for the boat, and I'll shoot some footage as we go over as well, and then I'll talk some more when we get onto the island.
His sisters, they were my school mistress.
Yeah. Atty and Babs. Yeah. I came down every summer for about 3 or 4 years. Yeah, so it's a nostalgic trip for me, this.
Were you local man then?
Well, I come from Devon, yeah. I'm a Devon man.
I call that local.
That's local, yeah.
Yeah. I just went to
Somerset.
Now, a bit further up in it. My godfather's funeral this week, he was 101.
Wow.
And he was a staunch Cornishman, but he was born in Devon. But he was Cornish.
You wouldn't take that.
No. He was even born in Plymouth.
You're a fair weather sailor, are you? Well, even a sailor.
And I'm Greek as well.
You're Greek?
Yeah, I'm supposed to love you.
Right, okay. You say you're in Taunton. Well, I've just got off the boat and had a brief chat with the boatman on the way over, and he remembers the 2 sisters who bought this island, Atty and Babs Atkins. Apparently they taught him at school when they first moved down here from Surrey. They were both school teachers, and when I was down here, the Pengelly family ran the boats across to Looe Island. Anyway, I'm going to have a wander around and kind of give my reflections on the place 45 years on. And the first place is what they call the generator room. And I came down about 3 or 4 years running. And if you're down here for on a year where they had to bring over the diesel for the generators, that was a big deal and hard work. You can see over the left hand side there one of the barrels and 2 generators. Literally these barrels of diesel were brought over by boat, and we had to, can't quite see now, we had to pump the diesel out of the barrels into tanks. No, we didn't. We pumped them into the generator, I think. So we had to come down on a fairly regular basis to keep the diesel pumps going, and they generated all the power on the island. And getting the barrels up from the beach was a major physical task. 2 of us used to have to roll the barrels up this path. You see where that gate is. it goes steeply down to the beach. I'll get down there a bit later. So we had to literally roll the barrels up from the beach, up here to the generator room. So that was a good physical workout. This was one of the original cottages that the sisters rented out. Built a lookout here. It's kind of nice. So you can see that jetty over there. Well, that wasn't there when I was there. Here, all the boats landed on the beach, which made landing quite difficult in bad weather. Sometimes when the weather was really bad, we were kind of Robinson Crusoes because the boats couldn't get across. This is the orchard. I remember it quite well. And the sisters used to make cider and apple crumbles and for the cafe and all that sort of thing. Massive nostalgic feeling here, walking these paths again, 45 years on. I feel blessed that I can still walk these paths 45 years on. Up ahead of us is the main house which Atty and Babs lived in. When we were coming to the end of our stay, Atty and Babs would invite us all into their kitchen, and we would have elderberry wine they'd made themselves, and a bit of a celebration really of the work we did here while we were here. And it was set up as a craft centre and conservation area at that time, and they advertised people to come across and do some conservation, art, etc. And I came over with other friends, and I liked it so much that I came back for 2 or 3 more summers. I remember this building, but I can't remember what it was used for back then. It's the Cornwall Wildlife Trust have taken it over. They've done quite a lot of cultivation here. But I can't say that it's terribly well maintained. If we were coming over here, that bench would have been rubbed down and painted. No question. This is one of the entrances to the main house. Beautiful old house. I never got to see very much of it. We were only ever invited in to the big kitchen and the parlour, so to speak. We never really saw any more than that. These stones were dotted around the island. I don't know whether anybody's done any research onto their origins, but again, I would think it'd be a good idea for them to get more volunteers out here to do some maintenance. We would have painted all these walls maintain the paths, and the people who were renting the cottages, we had to maintain their water supply. All right, thank you. I'm kind of amazed these huts are still here. This particular one in front of me, these were our accommodation while we were on the island. We literally slept on bunk beds in these sheds. I don't remember this one. Looks to me as though this one's new, but there were about 3 similar to that white one that were along this row, and all of us who were volunteers were accommodated here. This wasn't here for sure. This was originally the cafe and craft area and shop. I'm not sure now what it is, but it looks to me like it's accommodation. I can't even see the front lawn. This is where I did some digging. I won't go any further, it looks like it's private. When I was here, we were able to go right on to that other part, right out to the end. And the only time it was tricky to go out there was when the gulls were nesting and breeding, and they would dive bomb you if you came near. But now it's cordoned off. Heading up now to the top of the island. Even though there's quite a lot of us here in those working holiday days, if you wanted to be on your own, find somewhere to meditate, it wasn't a problem. Quite rugged and typical of the Cornish coastline. I think that must be a hide down there. That wasn't here when I was here, but great idea. Better watch the seabirds. Well, perhaps it isn't a hide. Yes, it is a hide. I remember there used to be chickens in chicken houses down here. I'm pretty sure it was in here. And one year Atty announced that in one of the old chicken houses she was afraid that there were rats underneath it. And the boys, I guess I was still a boy there or a young man, were told to go to the potting shed and get some pitchforks, shovels and whatever else, and go down and unearth and turn over that old hen house. Sure enough, they were there. They scattered before we could even get anywhere near them, and I don't think I would have skewered them anyway. We already knew there were rats on the island, because it wasn't just seagulls on the roof of our bunk houses, which I've already shown you, but you could hear them underneath our bunk houses, which was a little unnerving to say the least, and the girls could often be heard screaming. I'm almost at the top now. You can tell by my breathing, I'm sure. I'm just heading up to what we always knew as the chapel, which has some interesting history behind it, and some myth and religion, and, well, myth and mystery, I would say, more than religion, although there is a religious link to Looe Island, which is properly known as St George's. And here we are. Not exactly a stone circle, but one or two bits of stone which indicate it had an ecclesiastical component to it. There's definitely a mound here. You can see something must have been constructed at some point. Don't know whether you can see them down there. There's 3 cormorants on the rocks. So this trail sort of takes us down around the bottom of the island and towards the beach, if I remember. We're back in the woods. Where we do have some taller trees. So I'm heading down to the beach now, and you can see now see just how steep this is when we had to roll up the diesel barrels to the generator room. That could well have been one of the jetty that we used, but I think it looks a bit new. We just had boards and planks really to get people off the boats. Remember that someone fixed up a kind of a jungle telegraph, which was a can and a long length of wire going up to the top. I don't know whether it ever worked as a way of calling the people up the top from down here. I seem to remember some contraption that was attempting to communicate with people up at the house. Of course, now we've got phones. Protecting and maintaining this path was one of our jobs, and you can see where the rain has just washed away the stones and the gravel. Almost finished my tour now. Had a bit of rain, but the sun's come back out. We're looking at what used to be the cafe and the sort of craft area, and we used to have a big table right by that window, those double doors, and when all the visitors had gone home, we would set about preparing our evening meal and have a wonderful evening of fun and jokes and plans for the next day to do what we could to maintain and restore the island for Atty and Babs. And this grassy area would have been well cut, and tables and chairs out here as well. So this is Jetty Cottage, and as volunteers we all had kind of different roles and tasks while we were on the island, and one of them was quite a physical one, and that was that the jetty cottage didn't have any running water, and so there were two big tanks where that black tank is now, and we used to have to come down here to the jetty with buckets of water, to collect buckets of water and bring them back up here and then fill up their water tank, and then they would take the water from the tank outside the cottage, the door being just around the corner there. So reminds me of that old sort of Taoist spiritual adage, you know, chop wood, fetch water, very meditative. So that was one job that we had. We actually rotated it because it was quite hard work physically to fill this tank up. And then there were at least two out down on the beach, greeting the boats and helping people off and on the boats. Then there was someone in the cafe, that's the cafe up there, selling bits and pieces. Atty and Babs were very artistic and creative, and so they had artwork for sale. They had a little tea room there, which was very nice. And some of the students and people coming down for the holidays were artistic as well, so they would do art, donate it to Atty and Babs. Babs used to take anybody who wanted to go beachcombing at low tide and looking for pebbles and semi-precious stones, and then they would be brought back, and she had some stone cutting and polishing kit, and that would be turned into pendants and rings and various other things to sell in the shop. And as I say, we spent a lot of our time when we were sleeping in these huts. There were two more like that. Actually, I don't think they were. I think that was the only solid structure. The two here were wooden huts. I think there were 6 or 8 in total, with 2 bunks in each one. So the two sisters made plans for this island not to be commercially exploited, which there were a number of people who wanted to put a hotel on here and literally kind of destroy this wonderful natural habitat, and they made sure that wasn't going to happen, and so they donated the island to the Cornish Wildlife Trust, who now manage and maintain it. As I look around, there's so much to do here. There always was, but we had, and it's kind of a shame that it's in many ways quite neglected, and they've made big parts of it private, which is always a shame as well. Not unusual when large organisations take over buildings or land. I'm trying to think now how the hell we managed to collect water down here and bring it up to Jetty Cottage. I've forgotten how we did that. But for all of that, it's a beautiful island, and I had 3 or 4 very happy summers here. Met some nice people. The sisters were inspirational, and it led me to more projects in conservation. I joined the British Trust for Conservation Volunteers and did some projects with them as well. and we made friendships down here, most of which have not been maintained, but one of my best friends, Peter, who I knew before Looe Island, has, I believe, with his wife Kerry, come down here some time ago as well. And when I was talking to one of the people who runs the island, she was saying that there has been a number of people from that era that have come back to revisit Looe Island. I wonder if I was on the island with any of them then. That's a mystery that will remain unsolved.